Let me tell you something, it took me years to realize that no one else could write my story. For so long, I waited for validation, for someone to tell me that I was enough, that I was worthy. And you know what? It never came. I want you to think about that for a second. How many of you right now are waiting for someone else to give you permission to live the life you know you're capable of? Waiting for approval, waiting for someone else to tell you what you're worth? I'll share a moment with you that forever changed me. I remember sitting alone in my apartment early in my career, feeling lost. I'd achieved some success, but there was still a hole inside me. I realized that I had spent too much time and energy letting other people's opinions shape my life. I had been living for their applause, for their acceptance. And then it hit me like a lightning bolt. Why was I letting someone else have that kind of control over my happiness, over my life? I was giving away my power. So I made a decision that day. I decided to take back my pen. I decided that I was going to be the author of my story and that no one was going to write it for me. And I need you to understand this because this is not just about me. This is about you. Your story is yours. It belongs to no one else. You get to decide how it unfolds. You get to decide what the next chapter looks like. Now, I know some of you may be thinking, but Oprah, you don't know what I've been through, and you're right, I don't. But I do know this, what you've been through does not have to define where you're going. You may have scars, but those scars are proof that you survived. They are not a roadmap for the rest of your life. Too many of us live as though our past mistakes, our past failures determine what we can or can't do moving forward. But I'm here to tell you that you can rise above those limitations. You can rewrite your story. Here's something that happens when you take ownership of your story. You begin to respect yourself. And when you respect yourself, other people start to respect you too. When you stand up and say, this is who I am. This is what I believe in. This is the life I'm going to live. You stop seeking that validation from others. And trust me, the world takes notice when you walk in your own power. I want you to think about where you are right now. Are you waiting for someone else to validate your dreams? Are you living someone else's version of your life because it feels safe, because it feels easier than taking the leap and trusting yourself? Let me tell you something, it's not too late. It's never too late to take control, to be the author of your life. And I'm going to challenge you today, right now. I want you to stop waiting. Stop looking to others for permission. Start writing your own story today, not tomorrow, not next week, today. I want you to make a decision right now that you are the only one who holds the pen to your future. And I promise you, once you make that choice, you will feel a shift. You will see the world respond to the confidence that comes with knowing who you are and what you stand for. There's a moment in every one of our lives when we come face to face with the truth about ourselves. That moment when we realize that we've been leaning on others for strength, not because we're incapable, but because we've forgotten the power that lives within us. I had such a moment early in my career. I remember being in a room full of people, important people, people I admired. But as I stood there, feeling out of place, a wave of doubt washed over me. Who am I to be here? What do I have to offer? I questioned myself. I was looking around, measuring my worth by everyone else's standards. And it dawned on me how much of my life had I spent thinking that other people's approval was the key to unlocking my potential. How many times had I looked outside of myself, hoping someone else would see my value before I did? That day, I learned something powerful. No one else can give you the strength you already have. That strength, it's been inside you all along, waiting for you to wake up to it. But too often, we let doubt and fear bury it so deep, we forget it's even there. I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time you truly believed in your own strength? Not just hoped, not just wished, but believed that you had the power to overcome whatever life threw at you. If it's been a while, you're not alone. Too many of us, especially when we're faced with adversity, forget that we've already survived so much. We downplay our resilience. We forget how far we've come. Let me tell you a story. There was a time in my life when things weren't going well. I was fighting battle after battle, both personally and professionally. And I remember thinking, I don't know how much more of this I can take. Have you ever been there? That place where you feel like you're at your breaking point. But then something happens, a shift. You dig deep and you realize that you're still standing, that despite everything, you haven't given up. That's strength. That's the power that lives within you, even when you can't see it. The world will try to tell you that your strength comes from outside, your relationships, your job, your success. But let me tell you, those things may add to your life, but they don't define your strength. Your strength is already within you. It's in how you rise after every fall, how you push forward when every door seems closed, how you keep going when all you want to do is give up. We've all been knocked down. But you know what? It's not the fall that defines us, it's the rise. It's the moment we stand back up, dust ourselves off, and say, I'm still here, I'm still fighting. That's where true strength lies. And I want you to think about something else. When you start to believe in your own strength, the world starts to believe in you too. It's as if the universe takes notice when you stand tall in your power. People begin to respect you not because of what you've achieved, but because of the unshakable belief you have in yourself. That's what draws people in. That's what inspires them. But here's the thing, no one can do this for you. No one can give you that belief. It has to come from within. You have to look yourself in the mirror and say, I am strong. I am strong. I am capable. I am enough, and not just say it, believe it. Because when you believe in your strength, nothing can stop you. So today I challenge you to stop looking to others for what you already possess. I challenge you to recognize your inner strength, to trust in your resilience, and to walk in the power that's been inside you all along. Don't wait for the world to see it in yourself first. You are stronger than you think, and it's time to live like it. Let me ask you something. How many of you are exhausted from giving too much of yourselves? Maybe it's to your family, your job, your friends. How many times have you said yes when everything inside you is screaming no? We've all been there. That place where we feel guilty for setting limits, for drawing lines, for saying, I need this space for me. I used to struggle with this deeply. I'm going to be honest with you. There was a time in my life when I thought that being everything to everyone was the only way to feel loved, to feel valuable. If I said no, I feared people would think I was selfish, that I didn't care enough. I wore myself down trying to be everything for everyone. And you know what happened? I ended up depleted, emotionally drained, because I didn't have anything left for me. One day, a close friend came to me and said, Oprah, you're not taking care of yourself. You've been giving so much of yourself away. There's nothing left for you. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I realized I had been living without boundaries, not because I didn't need them, but because I didn't believe I deserved them. I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I didn't want to say no because I was afraid of disappointing people. But here's the thing, when you don't set boundaries, you end up disappointing yourself. You end up giving so much of yourself away that you lose sight of who you are. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care about yourself enough to protect your energy, your time, your peace. And the moment you start setting boundaries, you begin to respect yourself in ways you never thought possible. And let me tell you something, when you respect yourself, others will follow suit. I want you to think about the areas in your life where you've let those lines blur. Maybe you've allowed people to demand too much of you, or you've said yes to things that didn't feel right. Maybe you've been afraid to say no, thinking it would make you less of a friend, less of a partner, less of a worker. But here's the truth, setting boundaries is an act of self-love. It's an act of courage. And most importantly, it's necessary. Let me share a story with you. I once had a job where I felt obligated to be available 24/7, to respond to every request, to never say no. My phone was always ringing, emails pouring in at all hours. I thought this was what I had to do to be successful, to be seen as reliable. But slowly, it wore me down. I began to dread those phone calls, to feel resentment every time my inbox dinged with a new message. And one night, I realized something. I had the power to change it. I could take control of my own life. So I set a boundary. I started turning my phone off after a certain time, taking back my evenings for myself. And you know what happened? The world didn't fall apart. My job didn't crumble, but I changed. I felt lighter. I felt freer. And I realized that setting that boundary wasn't selfish. It was necessary for my well-being. This is what I want you to understand today. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you're pushing people away. It doesn't mean you don't care. It means you're prioritizing your peace, your happiness, and your emotional health. And you do it without guilt. No apologies. I want you to ask yourself right now, where do I need to set boundaries in my life? Where am I giving too much of myself to the point where I've got nothing left for me? It could be at work, in your relationships, or even with your own expectations. It's time to honor yourself, because if you don't, no one else will. And I want you to leave here today with a commitment to yourself. I want you to set one boundary, just one. It could be as small as saying no to an invitation you don't really want to attend, or as big as carving out time each week for something that replenishes your soul. But do it. Make the decision today that your peace is worth protecting. You deserve boundaries. You deserve space to breathe. And you deserve to live without the guilt of putting yourself first. You know, there was a time when I lived for the applause. I lived for the praise, for the compliments, for the approval of everyone around me. And every time someone told me I was doing a good job or that I was talented, I felt a little taller. But the moment that approval disappeared, the moment the applause faded, I was left with a deep emptiness. I thought I needed the world to tell me I was enough. I craved it. Maybe some of you can relate to that feeling. That constant need for someone else to validate who you are, to tell you that you matter. And let me tell you, it's exhausting. Because no matter how much praise you get, no matter how many people tell you you're doing great, it's never enough. It never fills that void inside. Because the truth is, external validation is like a Band-Aid on a wound that needs healing from within. I remember a pivotal moment in my life when I was chasing everyone's approval. I was trying so hard to fit into what others expected of me. I was successful on the outside, but inside I was lost. One day, a mentor of mine looked me in the eye and said, "Oprah, why are you living for everyone else's approval? Why are you giving them the power to decide your worth?" That question shook me to my core. It was a wake-up call. I realized that every time I sought validation from someone else, I was giving away a piece of my power. I was handing over my self-worth to someone else, letting them decide how I should feel about myself. And that had to stop. So I took a step back. I stopped asking, do they think I'm good enough? And started asking, do I think I'm good enough? That was the shift. And I'll be honest, it wasn't easy. It's hard to break free from the need for validation when you've spent your whole life seeking it. But once I made that shift, once I started validating myself, everything changed. I no longer needed others to tell me I was worthy because I already knew I was. I want you to reflect on this in your own life. How many times have you compromised who you are, what you believe in, or what you want just to gain someone else's approval? How many times have you silenced your own voice because you were afraid it wouldn't be accepted? We've all been there. But here's the truth: your worth isn't defined by what others think of you. It's defined by what you think of yourself. Let me share another story with you. Early in my career, I interviewed someone who had achieved incredible success. From the outside, they had it all: fame, money, respect. But in that interview, they admitted to me that they were deeply unhappy. I remember sitting there shocked. How could someone who had everything still feel empty? And they said something that stuck with me. I've spent my whole life trying to be what other people wanted me to be. But I never took the time to figure out who I wanted to be. That hit me hard. And it's something I want all of you to think about today. Are you living your life trying to meet other people's expectations, or are you living for you? Are you chasing approval, or are you chasing your own truth? Here's what I need you to understand. No one else's opinion should have the power to shape your life. No one else's approval should be the foundation of your self-worth. You are enough just as you are. You don't need anyone else to tell you that. You don't need the applause, the likes, the compliments. What you need is to look in the mirror and believe in yourself, to tell yourself, I am enough exactly as I am. So I'm going to challenge you today: stop seeking external validation. Stop giving other people the power to define your worth. Start looking inward. Start validating yourself. Because when you do, you'll find a strength, a confidence, a peace that no amount of outside approval can ever give you. You don't need the world to tell you that you're worthy. You already are. And the moment you truly believe that, everything changes. So from this day forward, I want you to make a promise to yourself. A promise that you will stop living for the applause. A promise that you will stop chasing validation from others. And instead, you will honor yourself. You will validate yourself. Because you, my friend, are enough. I want to talk about something that we often overlook in our fast-paced, always connected world: solitude. So many of us have been taught that being alone is something to be avoided, something to fear. We fill every moment with noise, with distractions, with people, because we think that being alone somehow makes us less. But here's the truth: solitude is not about loneliness, it's about self-discovery. Solitude is where we meet ourselves, where we find our truth. I'll never forget a moment in my life when I had to learn this lesson the hard way. There was a time when I was surrounded by people, my team, my friends, everyone I thought I needed to feel fulfilled, but I felt a deep emptiness inside. I was so busy being there for everyone else, I forgot to be there for myself. I wasn't afraid of the silence, I was afraid of what I might hear if I allowed myself to sit with it. But then I realized the only way I could truly grow, the only way I could truly understand who I was by learning to embrace the quiet moments. And so I did. I carved out time every day just for me. Time to reflect, time to breathe, time to listen to my own heart without the noise of the world telling me what to think. What I learned in that solitude was that I had been looking outside of myself for answers that were always within me. The distractions, the constant busyness, it was all keeping me from facing the truth that I needed to face. Solitude became my sanctuary. It became the place where I could recharge, refocus, and reconnect with my purpose. I know some of you might feel uneasy at the thought of being alone. You might think, I don't have time for that, or I don't want to feel lonely, but let me tell you, solitude is a gift you give to yourself. It's where you learn to love your own company. It's where you learn that you are enough, just as you are. When you sit in solitude, you allow yourself the space to think clearly, to hear your own voice without the opinions of others clouding your judgment. And you know what happens? You start to trust yourself more. You start to realize that you don't need the noise, the distractions, the constant connection to feel whole. You already are. Think about it. How many times have you avoided being alone because you were afraid of what you might find? How many times have you filled your life with things, people, tasks, just to avoid that quiet space? I'm here to tell you today, stop running from it. Lean into it. Solitude is where your greatest strength is waiting to be found. I want to share another story with you. Years ago, I interviewed a woman who had been through unimaginable loss. She had lost her family, her career had crumbled, and she was left with nothing but herself. She told me that at first, the silence was deafening. She didn't know how to be alone with her thoughts, her grief. But slowly, as she embraced that solitude, she found a strength within herself that she never knew existed. She discovered that her solitude wasn't a punishment, it was an invitation to grow, to heal, to rise again. And rise she did. She rebuilt her life stronger and more grounded than ever before. And she said to me, in that solitude, I met the person I was meant to be all along. That's the power of solitude, my friends. It's not about isolating yourself from the world. It's about creating space within yourself to grow, to heal, to reconnect with who you truly are. So today, I challenge you to embrace solitude, not as a last resort, not as something to avoid, but as a vital part of your journey. Take time, real time for yourself, even if it's just 5 minutes in the morning to sit in silence. Even if it's a walk alone in the evening to clear your mind. Give yourself that gift, because in those quiet moments, you will find clarity, you will find strength, and most importantly, you will find you. You don't need the world to tell you who you are. You don't need constant connection to feel validated. What you need is to connect with yourself in the stillness, in the quiet, in the solitude. And when you do that, you will emerge stronger, wiser, and more confident than ever before. So embrace the solitude. Step into it with courage, with grace, and with the knowledge that in those quiet moments, your greatest growth is waiting. I want to talk about something that has held so many of us back, myself included, the fear of rejection. We've all been there, haven't we? That moment where we hesitate, where we stop ourselves from taking a chance, from stepping out into the unknown, because deep down, we're afraid. We're afraid that someone will say no, that we won't be accepted, that we'll be judged, that we'll fail. But here's what I've learned, and it's something that changed the entire course of my life. Rejection is not the end of your story. It's not a reflection of your worth. It's simply a part of the journey. Let me share a personal story with you. Early in my career, I faced a rejection that shook me to my core. I was auditioning for a role that I thought would be my big break. I poured my heart into that audition. I gave it everything I had. But when the call came, they said, "We've decided to go in a different direction." I felt crushed. I thought, what's wrong with me? Why wasn't I good enough? That rejection felt like the end of my dream. But in that moment of disappointment, I had a choice. I could either let that rejection define me, or I could use it to refine me. And so I made a decision. Instead of wallowing in that fear of not being enough, I started to ask myself different questions. What if that rejection wasn't about me? What if it was just a redirection towards something greater? What if the no I heard wasn't a door closing forever, but just a sign that I was being guided towards something better? It's hard to see it in the moment, but looking back, I realized that rejection was one of the best things that ever happened to me. It wasn't a barrier, it was a stepping stone. It led me to opportunities I couldn't have even dreamed of. Now think about your own life. How many times have you held back because you were afraid of hearing no? How many dreams have you let slip away because you feared rejection? We do this all the time. We play it safe because we think that rejection will break us. But let me tell you something, rejection will not break you. It will build you. Every no you face, every door that closes is not a dead end. It's a lesson. It's an opportunity to grow, to learn, to become stronger. I once interviewed a woman who had faced countless rejections in her life, rejections from jobs, from relationships, from opportunities she thought she was perfect for. And yet, she kept moving forward. I asked her how she managed to stay resilient in the face of so much rejection. And she said something that has stayed with me ever since I stopped taking rejection personally. I realized that rejection is not a reflection of my value. It's just a part of life. And I'm worth more than someone else's decision. That's it right there. Rejection is not a reflection of your value. It's not a verdict on who you are. It's just a part of life, something we all go through. But it's not what defines you. What defines you is how you respond to it. Will you let it stop you, or will you let it fuel you? I know how easy it is to let the fear of rejection keep you from pursuing your dreams. We're all afraid of that sting of no, but I want you to think about this. If you never face rejection, it means you're not putting yourself out there. It means you're not taking risks, not reaching for the things that truly matter to you. And that, my friends, is a far greater loss than any no could ever be. So today I want you to let go of the fear of rejection. I want you to release it from your heart, from your mind, because here's the truth: rejection is a part of the process. It's not something to be feared, but something to embrace. Every no brings you closer to the yes that is meant for you. Every door that closes is guiding you toward the one that's meant to open. And here's the call to action. Don't let the fear of rejection stop you from pursuing what you want in life. Don't let it keep you from going after that dream, from applying for that job, from expressing your true self. The next time you hear no, don't shrink back. Don't question your worth. Instead, stand tall, smile, and say to yourself, I'm one step closer to my yes. Keep moving, keep believing, keep showing up for yourself. Because when you let go of the fear of rejection, you open yourself up to possibilities beyond your wildest dreams. You step into a place of power, a place of resilience, where no can take away your belief in yourself. That is the strength I want for you. That is the freedom I want you to embrace. You are enough just as you are. No rejection can take that away from you. So let it go. Let go of the fear and step boldly into the life you were meant to live. Let's talk about something that can transform your life in ways you might not even realize: gratitude and self-care. These two powerful practices go hand in hand, and they have the potential to shift your entire perspective in a world that often pushes us to focus on what we lack. Practicing gratitude helps us see what we already have, while self-care reminds us that we are deserving of love and kindness, especially from ourselves. I remember a time in my life when I felt overwhelmed and lost. I was juggling responsibilities, striving to meet everyone else's expectations, and in the process, I completely neglected myself. I was exhausted, emotionally drained, and I found myself in a cycle of negativity. I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. It was during one of those tough moments that I stumbled upon the concept of gratitude. I decided to start a simple practice every morning. I would write down 3 things I was grateful for. At first, it felt forced. I struggled to find anything worth celebrating, but I kept at it. As the days turned into weeks, something remarkable began to happen. I started to notice the little things: a warm cup of coffee in the morning, the laughter of a friend, the beauty of a sunset. Those tiny moments began to shift my perspective. They reminded me that even in difficult times, there was still so much to appreciate. Gratitude became my lifeline, a way to pull myself out of the darkness and into the light. And then I realized while gratitude was opening my eyes to the beauty around me, I was still neglecting one crucial aspect of my well-being: self-care. I had been so focused on being there for everyone else that I had forgotten to be there for myself. Self-care isn't just a luxury, it's a necessity. It's about recognizing that you deserve to prioritize your own needs and well-being. Think of it this way: how can you pour from an empty cup? When we take the time to nourish ourselves, whether it's through taking a quiet moment to breathe, indulging in a hobby we love, or simply treating ourselves with kindness, we create a foundation of strength and resilience. I began carving out time in my schedule for self-care. I would take long walks, read books that inspired me, or simply enjoy a few minutes of silence. Those moments transformed my day and reignited my passion for life. I once spoke with a woman who had faced tremendous challenges in her life. She shared that after losing her job and feeling the weight of the world on her shoulders, she realized she had to make a choice to either let that moment define her or to rise above it. She chose gratitude. Each day she committed to writing down what she was thankful for and making time for self-care, whether that was a long bath, a favorite meal, or simply allowing herself to rest without guilt. Over time, her situation didn't change overnight, but her mindset did. She began to attract opportunities, to foster connections, and most importantly, she began to love herself. She found strength in vulnerability and learned that taking care of herself didn't mean she was selfish, it meant she was worthy. When you practice gratitude and self-care, you cultivate a spirit of abundance, not scarcity. You begin to trust yourself, to acknowledge your own value, and to show up in the world with confidence. So let's take a moment to reflect. What are you grateful for right now? What small acts of self-care can you incorporate into your daily routine? I urge you to take that first step to show yourself that kindness and compassion that you so easily extend to others. Your call to action today is simple yet profound. Begin a gratitude practice and make self-care a priority. Write down 3 things you are grateful for each morning. Schedule that time for yourself, whether it's 5 minutes of quiet, a relaxing bath, or a walk in nature. These practices will not only help you navigate life's challenges with grace, but will also empower you to recognize your worth. Remember, you are deserving of love, respect, and care. By practicing gratitude and self-care, you are not just honoring yourself, you are setting a powerful example for those around you. Let gratitude fill your heart and self-care nourish your soul, and watch as your life transforms into something beautiful.